Alright then folks, hello, this is commentator Nukeshot off Apple here on Dynamic Racing Leagues yet again, here for Dynamic Racing League's DTM, round 4 here today of Season 2. So we're at the Autopolis circuit, which is a new venue to the series, to Dynamic Racing Leagues as a whole, if I recall correctly. So it's going to be an interesting one to see how it goes. There you can see John Wandering, one of the many entrants that we have lined up today, going to hopefully put on a very good show, as it normally does, hopefully less chaotic than the Super Formula that we saw yesterday. Of course, these cars in their Season 2, so, or this championship rather, so everyone should know roughly what they're doing. Let's hope. So, running through some of the entries here, we have Nilsman in the Breitling car of Nukeshot Motorsport yet again, making his return at a very close but strong finish at Blue Moon Bay last time out. We have GRM Bandit as well, racing for Moonshine Motorsports in that suicide prevention livery after his team swap. We have RBZ Arama, who has been doing very well in the Super Formula side of things as of recently. Oh, just clipped a bit of the grass and that nearly sent him off. Behind him, there you can see Spinner Copen in the bright yellow Adidas car of Team Spirit. Going to 5th, of course, we have the lad John Wandering. Currently 3rd actually, and again showing a lot of pace in practice. This seems to be a running theme with him. I Am Guru in the bright pink Fujitsu car. So good to see them making a return. Currently ranked 7th, we have King of Torque, someone who is definitely going to be towards the sharp end of the field, as he usually is in the Mission Winnow machine of Dynamic Esports. And we have a substitution for Sailor, if my memory serves me correct. It is the next-gen car driven by Ayrton Spanner. We're going to be interested to see how they do in this one, their first race in Dynamic Racing Leagues, of course. So, again, going to be interesting to see that. And Houdini in the Bacardi Martini car. Again, should be one towards the sharper end of the field. We'll have to wait and see. We have Wybear, who's currently, I believe they're driving for HKS Vertigo, unless there's been a team swap recently. No, they're still down as HKS Vertigo, so that makes sense. TSR Jimmy driving the Daqua machine, so I assume it must be a substitution for TSR Stig. So the TSR lads helping each other out in that sense. Good to see. Of course, I can tell that because there's a rule specifically stating 2 cars can't have the same primary sponsor. And of course we have the Waddle Dee himself, Dynamic Carbon, who, as usual, rocking car 24 for Dynamic Esports, should be another driver to look out for in this one. About the circuit, it has been likened by some people in the Nukeshot Endurance series as relatively similar to Suzuka, in the sense that there are quite a few sections where passing is dead on impossible because there's only one line through, but it's certainly possible in a couple of sections. That hairpin just there in the middle of the circuit that Carbon just went through, definitely one of those overtaking opportunities. Also the hairpin at turn 6. But it is very difficult to pass through this sort of high-speed section. We'll have to wait and see how everything plays out. We're about 3 minutes away from qualifying. So now currently watching Ed and Spanner, who's currently got the fastest lap in this practice session, so things are looking quite good for him at this point. We're gonna go on board with his car if we can. Oh no, there we go. We're going on board with the car of Ed and Spanner for a lap of Autopolis, so he just came across the start-finish line at that point. Now, turn 1, very few actual braking markers from what we've been hearing from some of the drivers, but Etten manages to get that, runs a little bit wide actually, but, well, misses the apex, but manages to get through that safely. Gravel trap lasts forever, and then it's got this little complex of 3, 4 and 5, which goes into the hairpin at 6. Again, very difficult to get the power down efficiently through here, and then it's a case of timing your acceleration to perfection so as you don't run wide on the exit of turn 8 there. Then smooth through turn 9 and then turn 10 hairpin. Generally you want to go for a late apex to try and get the run onto this following straight. And then this is a very fantastic corner in my opinion. Downhill, but it levels off as you get to the exit. And then it's all a very fast flowing section where again all about maintaining a rhythm. Some drivers run a bit wider to get a better angle entry. Senna seeming to stick with a more conservative line through there. And then the second to last corner, a very long stadium section that's nearly 180 degrees, and then a slight kink leading back onto the start-finish straight to complete a lap here at Autopolis. Okay, so we've officially hit 8 o'clock, so qualifying should be starting as soon as possible. I believe it's going to be a 15-minute session as per usual here today. Indeed, that is the case. And we are finally going qualifying it, so you can actually see we have quite a lot of entries for this one. We're going to have about 12 cars on track total, and immediately everyone's, if you just look here, look how close they're getting on the pit lane exit already, as Widebear has just left the room. We can assume it's some kind of connection issue. Hopefully they'll be back shortly. It is GRM Bandit who got out the pit lane first in the suicide prevention machine. So he'll be the first to cross the line provided he doesn't have an off on this outlap. Of course the track is quite familiar to Bandit from Need for Speed. In the past, it's newer to a lot of people who haven't played that. Oh dear, my apologies for that, I just had a bit of a cough, so I try to mute my mic. We should be back now. So yeah, Bandit coming through the last section now. Again, as I mentioned, should be a track quite familiar to him. A lot of people who have only really played GT Sport. The track hasn't been in the game for overly long, but people are starting to get the hang of the layout, as Bandit is now making his way through sort of middle section now. You can actually see Nils is catching him a bit in the Breitling car of Nookshot Motorsport. But Bandit does a good job through the hairpin, And Nils is just going to be benefiting from the slipstream. Actually, he's flashing his lights at him. So Nils is looking in a decent position as long as he's not affected by dirty air at this point. Bandit perhaps running just a smidge wide. It isn't the race just yet, but Nils would perhaps, if he does end up losing a fair bit of time to Bandit through here, just try and look for some kind of safe overtake. It looks like he's sticking with him for now. Bandit not holding him up too much. Nils going a little bit wide, perhaps due to the dirty air. And the first times will be coming up now across the line. It's a 1:46 from Bandit, but it's a 1:44.7 from Nilsman, who takes pole at this stage. But it's a 1:43.1 from Ayrton Spencer. So a very good first lap from the Brit, or the Welshman, judging by his helmet. So that next gen car doing very, very good stuff already at this stage. Even King of Torque can't quite match him. He's 7.5 tenths down. As there's yellow flags going into sector 1. I'm not quite sure what that was. Again, it's a relatively long-ish lap, but these cars doing around in the 1:40s. Especially compared to Blue Moon Bay, which we saw last time out, where the lap times were closer to 1:10s. It'll be very interesting to see how all of this develops, as it looked like that was someone jumping up the order. Was that Dynamic Carbon, perhaps? Or TSR Jimmy? It looked like there was a slight switch up on the standings chart somewhere in that region. So GRM and Bandit about to come across the line. Nilson's actually overtaken him on that lap and doesn't improve. And Bandit has just lost it on the exit of turn 1, just oversteering into the inside wall. So he's gone to the pits and will be heading out yet again. Just the fastest way to repair the damage, rather than going a full lap again. We'll probably have to concede positions for the cars that are on laps on this particular thing, as what on earth is happening? I'll put that down. Something insane just happened for my controller, but it should be fixed. What on earth is this camera? There we go. So with 6.5 minutes gone, it is still Ayrton Spencer who is top of the timing sheets. King of Torque hoping to respond again. It's BMW's 1, 2 and 3 at this particular stage, with King of Torque there and Nilsman in third. Highest non-BMW at this point being Spinnerkoppen, as it usually is. The Frenchman showing a very good amount of pace in that machine. V12 engine helping him. As someone's gone off in the last sector. I'm not quite sure who that is. I'll see if I can get... There's contact between John Wandering and Houdini. Not sure what was going on there, as Houdini now goes off. So yeah, the frustrations got to Houdini after that. So Ayrton not improving on his own times at this particular point, as there's been again a bit of shuffling going on. I assume that's just people going into the pit. But Dynamic Carbon's just set a personal best lap time. That's put them up to second. So less than a tenth between them and Nils. They now bail for the pits. Groot also in the pits, perhaps just putting on a new set of softs, trying to get any kind of advantage he can. What is going on with this controller? It just... I'm not even touching it and it just... I don't even know. Anyway, I do apologize for that. I'm using keyboard controls right now, but it was my DualShock that was causing that. Nils is coming through the last section then. Will it be an improvement from the one whom everyone fears? It doesn't quite look like it. No. In fact, he goes into the pits and he gets the pit entry wrong. So that's something to perhaps take note of as we head closer towards the full race. It is a very tricky pit entry here at Autopolis. Very similar to Brands Hatch in that sense. So we could be seeing quite a few mistakes, especially if multiple people come into the pits on the same lap. But that car does look quite beaten up and bruised. Still currently ranked 4th overall. They come out just behind Ed and Spenner. So we've just about got around 5 minutes left in the session. It's approximately 3, maybe 4 laps if you're lucky. And Nils just being a bit slidey through here. That BMW not looking completely settled here. It might have something to do with the elevation changes as well. Can you talk about it come across the line? What's he going to be able to do? He's going to go on to a lap, because that was his out lap from a pit stop. We're hearing from Jimmy that the ballast is certainly not helping him in this case. Of course, some cars are running ballast from the success having in previous rounds. Jimmy currently sits 7th at the moment. So, and Spenner now coming through the last section as another person has just joined the lobby. Have to get confirmation whether they are racing or not. But Hen comes across the line, not to improve their time on this occasion. Dynamic Carbon, so they're currently 3rd. So again, the Dynamic Esports team doing very, very well to be in the top 3 at this particular stage. Yet to see if anyone else will be able to challenge them. Perhaps we'll see a challenge from Spinnerkopen, but they've crashed into the pit wall. So a bit of a curse of the cameraman, I suppose you could say. Jack Wilkinson will have to go without his big up on that occasion. But Spinnerkopen goes into the pits, realising that they'll probably have an hour lap and then just one final shot at this point. They've lowered the fuel a little bit in that car by doing laps. Although, were they fueling up again? No, it looked like they might have just been performing repairs on that machine. So, I am Groot. I believe they're the top Audi at this point. They're currently in 6th. And it's TSR Jimmy standing in for TSR Lord Stigworth, who is currently 7th. Only, well, closer to 2/10, I suppose you could say, behind their fellow Audi countrymen. Houdini currently sits in 8th. But they do currently have one of the more heavier ballasts it would seem here. In fact, the car running the most amount of ballast, believe it or not, is Dynamic GT, which is carbon. So he's managed to qualify up into third. So impressive stuff despite the ballast from Waddle Dee. Scoogus just wants a smidge wide, but doesn't do a CJ and loop it round. Good stuff. So we haven't really seen that many improvements recently from the top of the timing sheet. It's still that 7/10 gap that Ayrton Spanner has to King of Torque, and he's just gone 3/10 purple in the second sector. So just the last sector to go. He could be trying to get that gap even larger, but actually King of Torque has just improved. As soon as I mentioned that the gaps have stagnated a little bit, King of Torque has indeed improved their time. So the gap down from 7/10 to around 5/10, but not enough on this particular occasion. They've got one more lap to go, as we only have around 40 seconds in the qualifying session left. Hello to Prasetya Yogi in the chat. I probably butchered your name, but still. Welcome along to Dynamic Racing League's DTM, here not on the Radio Show Limited Network, but here instead. So, with around 20 seconds left to go, I'll get ready to make the flag notification. As soon as it ticks over to 15. Oh, it's Wide Bear in the chat. Good to see you there. So the flag has now been called out. So one person to really watch on this particular time is King of Torque. He's currently second. I think he's probably the only person who could potentially challenge for that first place, but he seems to be going a bit slow, if anything, through the last sector, almost like he's easing off. I could be mistaken, it might just be the camera, but indeed he is going slower, and it isn't going to be an improvement from him as he just goes into the pits. Meanwhile, Dynamic Carbon comes across the line, only just not improving that time. Nils coming through the final sector. What are they going to be able to do? Car's being told to park in sector 2 as is protocol. So Nils rounding the last corner. It's not going to be enough. It's not going to be an improvement either, so we've just got one more car. I believe that's GRM Bandit just coming across the line. Didn't seem like they improved on that lap. So it's going to be Ayrton Spanner on a debut pole position, driving that next-gen machine. No doubt his regular entry teammate Sailor will be more than happy with that performance from him. Car number 11 will be starting on the front row of the grid and should be alongside the infamous King of Torque. So now we have a little bit of a waiting period. That was an exciting qualifying, but in the end it was a fair bit of a gap that was developed. There you can see cars getting into the 143s, but the only 142 managed was by Ayrton Spanner. It was a 142.756 that managed to take that pole position. King of Torque with a 143.638, nearly an entire second off the pace of Ayrton. So things perhaps looking bit one-sided at this point, but again, it's one thing to have one lap pace, another thing to be consistent. We'll have to wait and see what happens regarding that, but we're having a cooldown period as per usual before we start the race here at Autopolis. Weather as usual being quite kind to us here in GT Sports, still no chance of rain. Kazunori, get on that. So yeah, the race start should be in approximately 2 minutes, might be a bit later. Due to potential delays, someone being asked to change their balance of performance real quick. I believe that was the person that joined mid-qualifying session who didn't set a time. A homesick alien. Let's see if we can get them on track. No, they're currently not on track at this moment. Regarding the standings at this particular point in the championship, it's Dynamic Carbon, this guy, who is got 24 points from Sailor, who is in second with 18, then Fast and Loud, who is TSR Stig, who sits on 15 points, followed by Gugus 99 with 12 points, 10 points for King of Torque, as is the same with D-Max, who is Jim Jam, I believe. Then we have Spinnerkopen in 7th on 8 points, Nilsman on 7 points in 8th. In 9th place it is I Am Guru, only on 3 points, which, considering how they been doing in the qualifying stuff recently, it really does surprise me that they've not managed to get overly many points. They do seem to struggle a bit in terms of staying out of trouble. So it's also Alpha Nut on 2 points, their Groot's teammate, they're in 10th. In 11th it's GRM Bandit on 1 point, and in last and 12th at the moment in the championship it's Ybear, but Ybear, he was here earlier at least. Whether he did disconnect or something. So this must be Groot's replacement then, is Homesick Alien in the bright orange Texaco car. So going to be interesting to see how they do. Of course, Ed Spanner was an unknown substitute, and they managed to take pole by quite a significant margin here today. So going to be in a complete unknown as to what is paces. Yellow flags pretty much all the way around the track for some reason. Oh, indeed, for some reason in the driver's standings, John, you're not even listed, so that's a thing. That's kind of sad. Can we have some Fs for John Wandering not being featured on the point standings? I Am Groot in the chat saying it's a race for second. Based on qualifying, it would seem to be the case, but then again, we don't know much about this Ed Spanner guy, so we'll have to wait and see. We also heard in the lobby chat, I believe it was Nilsman, who had the wrong balance of performance, or something along those lines. So that might actually cancel their qualifying time, so Nils might be starting from the back of this one. Or perhaps alongside Homesick Alien or something, considering that the Alien didn't even set a lap time. So just getting things sorted out regarding that balance of performance issue. Hello to Gaming Now in the chat, nice of you to tag along. We currently have 9 viewers on the stream, so having a very successful time of it at the moment, are we? And it's just the break period. We have an entire race coming your way shortly here on Dynamic Racing Leagues, not part of the Radio Show Limited network of channels. But we're our own thing here. We don't need no John Hindhaugh or any other decent commentators. You have a Radish instead. A Radish with a headset. John Wandering claiming that he's sandbagging and then admitting he's not. That is sad times for John Wandering. At least you're a fan favourite, John. There's always that. I mean, who doesn't like John Wandering in this championship? What a lad. Houdini just needs to change something, apparently. I assume that's going to be setup related. He's left the track. I believe Carbon should have had the time screenshotted. Or something along those lines to make sure that the grid is set appropriately. Have a bit of a fail-safe. You can hear the engines revving already, burning unnecessary fuel, telling the environment to, I don't know, probably something I can't say on stream, but still. So car number 11, in case any of our viewers missed it, of Ayrton Spanner subbing in for Sailor. They managed to take pole position by 0.8 of a second. As that is a wild King of Torque who just came sliding around the corner. Indeed, the Radish approves of the slide McGee's. Thank you very much, King. Keeping the viewers entertained as we are still going through this waiting period at the moment. We'll be getting things underway as soon as we can. It's just a case of making sure everyone's BOP is correct, everyone is in the correct grid positions and such. Is everyone past the Sector 1 marker? Waddles is just going past it now. Bandit is already making complaints about everything in the lobby chat, as you can see. Bottom left. Why am I not surprised? So, judging by what the host of the lobby is saying, we should certainly be getting started as soon is. And indeed, the final has been started, or will begin in a few seconds' time. So we're about to go racing here in Japan at Autopolis. Who's gonna come out on top here today? Will it be our pole sitter, Ayrton Spanner, or will it be the car that lines up alongside King of Torque? Perhaps Waddles, who qualified third, will have a shot at this. Or Nilsman, making up a BMW 1, 2, 3 and 4 in qualifying. Perhaps he will be able to take something from this. But we're about to go green here at Autopolis. Here we go then. Green, 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 and the cars are up. It's a fantastic shot from King of Torque, who launches his way up into first place off the line. and the car's already going nearly 4 wide down the straight as they approach turn 1, but King of Torque has an amazing start, and that is exactly what he needed. Nils trying to go around the outside of Ayrton Spencer. Looks like everyone gets through just about okay. There's someone who dropped back a little bit. It looks like Houdini might have had a bit of contact with the potential bit of suspension damage. Ayrton Spencer manages to fend off Nilsman. Groot has managed to get his Audi up into 4th, so fantastic start from the tree man in the bright pink machine. But it is this guy, King of Torque, who has had an absolutely lightning launch off the start of this. But now he's got Ayrton Spencer for company, and Ayrton nearly diving down the inside of the hairpin. That could have been very juicy indeed. Looking a little bit further back, there you can see everyone's still relatively close together. Groot looking like they might be challenging going into this next turn. I think a bit better of it. And again, Ayrton Spencer just managing to stick with King of Torque at this point. These two starting to break away from the rest of the pack as they make their way through the very twisty last sector here at Autopolis. It is car 98 that leads from car number 11. Then car 62 of Nilsman down in 3rd. Someone who hasn't had a good start at all from 3rd on the grid is Dynamic Carbon, who's dropped all the way down to 7th on lap 1. But King going defensive, and that is a very good fake from Ayrton Spencer. It just about gets it to work, but King goes for a cutback. Fantastic racing between these two cars. But it is King that currently holds on to it, as it seemed that someone's going to the pits. That's more than likely Houdini, as Carbon has been left out to dry. Almost seems like they might have damage, but they don't. As they're still side by side for the lead, and King is trying to defend on the inside through here, having to leave the racing room for Ayrton on the outside. Can't get on the throttle as early as he would normally. They'll still have the inside as they make their way through the turn 10 hairpin. They touch, and that is Spencer going off into the grass, and they lose another position to Nilsman. So that is really unfortunate, but it could have been a lot worse if they had completely gone into the gravel. But they lose another position, and that's allowing King of Torque to get away with it a little bit. Meanwhile, a smidge further back, you can see Houdini battling with John, wandering at this particular point. In fact, it's GRM Bandit who is very far back. He's currently down in 11th. He must have been the car that came into the pits to repair that damage. 2 laps gone, it's King of Torque who still leads. Nilsman now up into 2nd, and just about out of the slipstream range of Ayrton Spencer, as TSR Jimmy has come into the pits, and they've picked up front aero damage. It seems must have been a case of just I don't know, a bit of contact. Oh, there's a bit of suspension damage on Guga's car, or Houdini's car rather. Again, getting used to name changes. He comes out of the pits and rejoins in last place from that. As looking, it seems that Ayrton has managed to catch up quite a lot on Nils through the corners. The gap was 7/10 earlier when they were on the straight on this same lap, and Ayrton's looking to the inside of what will be the hairpin, so Nils didn't really defend that at all, and Ayrton manages to be so late on the brakes. He manages to get that done. Makes me wonder if he's got ABS off or something, and he's just managing to outbrake people that way. That might explain a little bit, which is a very impressive skill to have if that is the case. But now Ayrton Spencer is back up into 2nd and will be looking at into that 2-second gap at the car ahead. King of Torque already looks closer on that camera shot. Oh, you can really just see this particular BMW M6 is absolutely planted compared to the rest of the field. It's almost like he's on hypersofts or something. It's unreal. The gap now down to 1.4 seconds as they come across the line. Meanwhile, a bit further back, John Wandering and GRM Bandit, the two teammates of Moonshine Motorsports, going at it for position. Of course, Bandit, we know he has the experience on this track longer than quite a lot of other people. It looks like he's going to be a bit too far back on this particular occasion to make a challenge, or is he? He's looking for a dive down the inside, and he is going for it with his teammate. No team orders here. Smidge of contact, just a little bit of a tap, but Bandit easily goes through at turn 1. Good stuff from the American, and of course from John Wandering as well. In fact, Houdini is starting to come into the picture as well. Tents are falling down between that gap, so Houdini on an absolute barnstorming charge at this stage of the race. There they are, as things are again looking like the gap is closing at the top of proceedings. Not quite as close as this, as Houdini does go down the inside line.com. John Wandering perhaps looking for a cutback, just about gets one. So they're going to be side by side heading down towards this next section. Gugas, oh, it just runs a little bit too wide, and they're still side by side going into this section. There's contact, and Gugas somehow manages to hold on to that. Flash of the lights from John Wandering, probably an apology that happened. Now going back to the battle for the lead, you can see the gap has really come down between Aaron Spencer and King of Torque. Aaron Spencer going around the outside of turn 3. He'll switch to the inside. Now will King be able to hold on for the hairpin? Indeed he does, but Aaron Spencer's looking for a cutback there. King does well to defend. So the battle really heating up. And again, it looks like King doing what Nils didn't do and defending the inside, going into the hairpin. He outbreaks himself a little bit, that allows Senna down the inside, and King's lost it! King's lost it! He manages to just about recover, but he's lost a massive chunk of time from that. Just cracked like an egg under the pressure. I honestly do not blame him at all. That's putting him under a bit of pressure of now being catched by Nilsson. But now with Ayrton Spencer upholstered back into the lead, you gotta think it might be a question of him just pulling away at this point, but we'll have to wait and see. As Nilsson has just left, so that they was running third. It looked like that was just a random disconnect, it would seem, or a power cut or something. So that's Nilsson out of this race. Big up to my coach for liking my activity. So that's promoted Spinnercoven in the Aston Martin, the Adidas machine. They're now up into third, 20 on their helmet, 99 on their car. What kind of logic is that? And finally, it seems I Am Groot is having a decent race, where things haven't gone wrong for him. So he's currently the highest ranked Audi of the lot, doing a very good job indeed. Dynamic Carbon. Just seemed like they might have made a bit of a pass on Homesick Alien. We'll see if we can catch that. Oh, there was a head at this point where it looked like Homesick Alien was trying to challenge around the outside, and it was well defended from Carbon on that occasion. So Homesick Alien also doing a very good job to be in the points. Of course, it is top 6 that get points, as Houdini Myers has left the race as well. So that's both Nuke Shot cars down and out of this one. But both of the VRC Motorsport Audis doing a very good job. as it can be said for the Dynamic Esports squad, that sort of goes without saying in this series. They do tend to run very, very well, very, very consistent. Looking a bit further down the order, we have TSR Jim Jam. Again, struggling with the ballast that the person he's substituting for, Stig, who's running, or had collected last time out. You can see that Audi R8 really slippery. And GRM Bandit about 15 seconds back in the Moonshine Motorsport Suicide Prevention machine. That Aston Martin V12 engine not really helping him overly much at this stage, but we're trying to catch up as he goes into the pits for what I can only assume will be an early pit stop. He made contact with the barrier, and indeed that has given him extra damage that he'll need to repair in this pit stop. I think he's already made a pit stop, so he might have picked up that damage earlier. Indeed, it is just a case of repairing the damage and getting out the pits. So I thought the damage was just from hitting that pit lane entry. It must have been sooner. So he's dropped down the order now, 13 seconds behind TSR Jim Jam, and his teammate in Moonshine Motorsports running 9th, John Wandering, around 47 seconds back from him, as there's been a little bit of a position swap. That's Groot, who's went off at the hairpin at turn 10. Let's see what happened here. So Groot, who was running 4th, and he just overdoes it on the brakes, and then he spins the car around and then has to reverse. Oh, it's absolutely catastrophic. And then again has to wait in order for a safe rejoin. So as soon as I mentioned that Groot was having a decent race, things just seemed to turn on him. Really unfortunate to see. So that has promoted Dynamic Carbon up into 4th. Which, considering they started 3rd, not the best of things. And that's Spinnercopen, who's had a bit of an accident. What's happened here? So they're by themselves. Oh, they just ran too wide and clipped the grass, and now it's a heavy impact into the wall. And it is engine damage for Spinnercopen. So this is going to be the longest and most grueling drive back to the pits for the Frenchman that he's ever had to do in his motorsports career, more than likely losing it on the exit of turn 1. So he has to go all that way around. He's going to be absolutely kicking himself after that. Meanwhile, Homesick Alien ahead of TSR Jimmy. It's Audi's in 4th, 5th and 6th at this point, to sort of mimic the BMWs in 1st, 2nd and 3rd. So no Aston Martins in the points after Spinnercopen's accident. We're going to go on board with the car of TSR Jimmy here. You can see what I meant earlier in the lap breakdown about how some cars take a wider entry into that section. Homesick Alien doing that. There are multiple lines that work in certain sections of that little complex, and surely it's going to be a case of Jimmy now having the slipstream to challenge, although that car of Homesick Alien does seem to look good on the straights. He's gaining, he's looking, and he's gonna have to try and go for it. Does he know he backs out? Meanwhile, what's this? It was getting close. Oh, that was John Wandering being lapped by our race leader, Ayrton Spenner. One thing I should mention actually is we've switched the format from being a timed race of 1 hour in length to being lap based 1 hour in length. This is because certain cars were being registered one lap down when they actually weren't at the time of crossing the line or such. So that's the thing. As it still looks like TSR Jim Jam is all over the back of the orange Texaco machine of Homesick Alien. So Alien doing a very good job on his debut, especially considering they missed out on qualifying. Jim Jam sliding about like a fish out of water. That ballast, depending on where they've actually put it on that Audi R8, if it is further towards the back, it would certainly not help that thing with the sliding. It would just increase the pendulum effect. Not actually sure whether the no tuning thing applied to Jimmy as well as it did to Stig, because Stig, given that because he's above a B rated driver, to sort of even out the playing field. But Jim Jam well within the slipstream on this occasion, and surely it's going to be a matter of time. Indeed, he pulls out and late on the brakes, but it looks like Homesick Alien has managed to defend yet again. So a lot of credit to the Alien. This King of Torque currently sits 11 seconds back from Ant Spanner on a bit of an island at this particular stage in the race. But yeah, Homesick Alien doing a very fantastic job on their debut here today at Autopolis. And indeed, we're getting a confirmation that I've just checked on the chat on YouTube that Nils disconnected, so that is really unfortunate to see. Especially for me as his team manager, of course, but of course it's really unfortunate to see anyone disconnect in any online racing series. My thoughts are with you and your family and such. So apparently it was a disconnect for Houdini as well. I assumed it was some kind of contact that may have caused it, but okay, it was a disconnect for both Nuke Shot cars according to what I'm hearing, as he really just saw Jim Jam sliding about like an absolute slide McGee. If I didn't know any better, I'd think that I was driving that Audi R8. Interesting to know that all three cars have different types of engines. There's a V12 in the Aston, V8 in the BMW, and V10s in these Audi R8s that we're currently watching right now. So we're going to go for an onboard of the rear wing of Homesick Alien's machine. This is by far the closest battle on track for position. Again, Homesick just doing such an amazing job on the defensive. Like, nothing dirty or anything like that. It's just getting the job done. And it's not like Jimmy is an inexperienced driver either. We saw his pace last time out, as well as in DRL Super Formula, yeah, and TSR Super Formula as well. So Jim Jam has definitely been around the block on the league racing front, but has dropped back a little bit now. Wonder if anyone's suffering from motion sickness from this camera yet. Who knows? Who knows? Well, we'll go back to this particular camera. Was that I Am Groot in the background who seems to be catching up a little bit? It is. So Groot's starting to come into this battle as well, as perhaps the dirty air affecting Jim Jam, allowing Homesick Alien's teammate to catch up. And in fact, they're off. Jimmy's off. So that's going to definitely affect their run going down to here. It looks like they might just be able to fend off Groot, but no. What's happened here? What's happened with Groot? What was that? What on earth was that? Let's go to an onboard of this. So he just seemed to outbrake himself and cut across to the inside. It was a good thing that he avoided contact with that by diving extremely up the inside, I suppose. But that was extremely drastic. So that's pretty much undermined all the work that he had put in to get up to Jim Jam. And now you can actually see the gap developing between Homesick and Jimmy. Jimmy's still struggling along. You can see the paintwork scratched up on the front of that Daqua machine. Definitely seems to be one of the more slidey cars on the pack. Of course, being mid-engine, still suffering from that ballast as well. Okay, it pretty much just turning this into a drift course. I know this game, this track was featured on Need for Speed in the past, but still. So with 12 laps gone in this one, it is this guy, Ayrton Spanner, who was running away with it at this point, 33 seconds ahead of King of Torque. That is something that we never really say on this channel, as Jimmy's just gone into the pits to perhaps get a bit of an undercut on the likes of Homesick. It's King of Torque, of course, as we mentioned, in second at this stage in the race, and is being caught up quite significantly by their teammate Waddles, Dynamic Carbon. You can see the gap coming down, nearly down to a second, so King of Torque perhaps using up his tyres a bit more than Carbon, who seems to have been a bit more conservative on that. Again, the gap keeps on coming down. It makes me think, actually. No, he hasn't got damage. So... we'll quickly compare the tyre wear on the two cars. Oh, indeed, you can very clearly see the difference between the two of them. Dynamic Carbon definitely doing a much better job on saving their tyre, so perhaps that very aggressive driving strategy that allows King of Torque to be so quick is not doing his tyres any favours at all, as someone's gone off at the hairpin. I'm not quite sure who that is. It's Jim Jam. Let's get a replay of this. So he was just coming up to the hairpin at turn 10, and he really just overshot it. That was... he actually outbroke himself to Narnia. So that's the second time we've seen a car get that wrong, and I believe the second time it was an Audi. So, of course, because it was Groot that did that before, wasn't it? So perhaps the brakes on these Audis are starting to fade a little bit or something. Meanwhile, these BMWs that currently lead us away in first, second and third seem to be doing a little bit of a better job of it, as GRM Bandit finds himself back up into the points in 6th. So consistency and just plugging away has definitely seemed to help him out. As in fact, we've just had another retirement actually. So I can't quite remember who that was. It's not Alien. It's and it again just taking that wide entry into the turn 10 hairpin. A bit of a scrap going on here again between the two Dynamic Racing Team, or Dynamic Esports cars as they're now called these days. King of Torque really being caught up by their teammate. But yeah, we've had another retirement then from this one. So we're down to 8 cars. Ayrton Spanner currently sets the fastest lap of the race with a 1:42.5 dead. With a lap time that precise, I would call hacks, but probably not. It's probably just pace. Probably like an... Wouldn't surprise me if they're an A-rated driver or something. Unless they've never touched sport mode in their life. Who knows? Who knows? But Carbon is all over the back of their teammate like a bad rash as they make their way down towards turn 11. And now it's the dirty air that's going to be playing a part as they make their way through the section, but the mechanical grip should be there for Carbon as his tyres are less worn than his teammates, as we saw earlier on. They've made their way under the bridge and heading towards the stadium corner. And again, Carmen will definitely be within that juicy slipstream range. We go on board with the G-Ready car. It pulls out of the slipstream a bit too early for my liking. Of course, they might be having a team radio or something, so deciding to keep King ahead at this stage. Who knows? Who knows? But I personally would have stuck in the slipstream a bit closer, and perhaps I've got a bit more of a run into turn 1. But perhaps just, again, perhaps just conserving a bit of fuel or something. We don't know. They're going through the turn 6 hairpin now, the complex at 7, 8 and 9. A place where it is so easy to understeer off. Carbon doing a very good job keeping it on the road, now heading up towards the turn 10 hairpin. Getting a little bit slippy on the exit. So at the moment, this battle seems to have reached an impasse, with Carbon not able to really challenge to make that overtake, but King of Torque certainly not got the pace that he had earlier on in this one. It's insane to think that Ayrton Spanner is around 42 seconds ahead of these guys, nearly 43 seconds now. And again, on the slipstream, will Carbon, who might be listening into this commentary, take my advice of sticking in the slipstream a bit more? It seems like it. He didn't end up pulling out at that particular occasion, but the dirty air affecting him on the exit. He's certainly gaining on the straights though, as you would expect, but just not able to really get close enough to commit himself into a corner. As I believe we're seeing on the minimap that might be John Wandering being lapped again by some people. Not sure, it's looking a bit close there. I'm gonna assume it is. Is it? No. There's a bit of a battle going on for 4th, was it? No? Oh, it just looked like 2 arrows were quite close together on track at a certain point, but no, that is not the case, as Carbon is looking a lot closer than he was before, but again, just staying out of the slipstream range. He could have perhaps tried to get something to work, but it is a very dangerous corner to overtake as turn 11 with the change of elevation. Now going through the complex in the last sector. Again, extremely difficult to overtake through. There really is only one real line you can take. Of course, you can go a bit wider and then cut back for a better entry into the midsection of it, but besides that, it's pretty much single file through there, as it looks like King nearly faked going into the pits. So a bit of mind games going off between the two dynamic esports cars. Carbon again looking closer than he has before, but the dirty air making him miss the apex, and the gap is back down to that 5/10. He's not going to be able to really get close enough to challenge going into turn 3. So these two working together as opposed to battling at this stage, it could be said. They are teammates after all. As King gets a bit of a slide, and it's immediately copied by Dynamic Carbon. They must be on the same strategy if they're even sliding at the same parts of the lap. Still extremely close together. We've now hit 10 viewers on the stream, so thank you all for tuning in here today on Dynamic Racing Leagues, not part of the Radio Show Limited Network, as we're now watching Dynamic Carbon actually have a run and nearly thinking about going down the inside of turn 11. Again, very dangerous to do so. So opting to just stick behind, as someone has just gone wide at... oh, who was that? Was that John Wandering that we just saw? Let's see what happened here. So he was just getting blue flags and he just overshot it. And again, what will Dynamic Carbon be able to do on this occasion? We're going rear wing cam on King of Torque's car. You can see how Carbon could have stuck in the slipstream a bit more. Ooh, braking a bit varying. TSR Motorsport, I believe that's Stig in the chat, asking if the race time's been extended to an hour and 50 minutes. I believe we're still meant to be running to 1 hour, at least from what I've heard. However, we've changed from an actual time format to a lap format, so the calculation might be a little bit off, as King has really actually managed to gap Carbon through that second sector. So it's gone wide at the hairpin. Yeah, it does seem like it is going to be a longer race. Still these two battling away. Carbon seeming to do a little bit better in terms of catching up now that he dropped back into the slightly cleaner air. And now again managing to get the gap down as soon as he dropped back, so perhaps the tyres were overheating, so he had to drop back. And now that they've cooled down a little bit, able to get right back on the tail of King of Torque as they make their way down onto lap 20, heading down towards turn 1 yet again. Carbon sticking in the slipstream this time, again having a little bit of a look but slotting back in, having to brake a bit earlier, and again, even though braking earlier, the dirty air catches him out. These two still going at it. But I think it is just a matter of time before something develops. It seems that Carbon's had a fair bit of a better exit through the turn 6 hairpin on that occasion. Kieran Rees cheering on for Ian Spanner. He's doing a very good job. He's currently 51 seconds ahead of these guys who are battling for second. As it looked like Carbon was perhaps looking to just get a bit of a better exit through the turn 10 hairpin. Hasn't worked out for him on this occasion. Here he is, our race leader, Ayrton Spanner, the Welshman, judging by his helmet. doing a fantastic job at this stage in the race. There you see actually just TSR Jim Jam in the background. Someone else who's having a very good debut, it has to be said, Homesick Alien, who's they've been the replacement of Alpha Nut in car 44 with the Texaco machine. So they're doing a fantastic job to run in the points, as is I Am Groot, who's coming up to lap John Wondering. As Dynamic Carbon has gone into the pits, so he's looking, perhaps thinking that if he's not going to make an overtake on track, that he's going to have to try and make an overtake on strategy, trying to get the undercut on his teammate. Where will he come out? He's going to come out in 4th, so behind Homesick Alien. We'll have a bit of clean air, at least. So TSR Jim Jam, currently in 6th. He's a lap down according to the timing. So Ayrton Spanner really has been making a mockery of the field in this one. He's been doing an absolutely fantastic job. And GRM Bandit, who dropped out of the points again, but he's still doing a good job, waiting for some kind of mistake, only 4.3 seconds back from TSR Jimmy, as Ayrton Spanner has now gone into the pits, our race leader. He'll be joining clear air based on the track map. No real need to look at it as he is that far ahead, but it is noteworthy. And of course John Wandering, the fan favourite, currently a minute and 14 back from Bandit, but still going along. Again, that car looks so battered and bruised, but it is still going, so all credit to John Wandering for keeping that machine running, the CVS Pharmacy sponsored machine, of course. So King of Torque, and this is what I was thinking would happen, he's going to respond to his teammates' undercut. So he's into the pits now. Where's Dynamic Carbon in all this? They're gonna be coming through the last corner now. It's gonna be close between these two, as we would expect. And that's King exiting the pits. And that's nearly gonna be contact with Homesick Alien on the rejoin, but Homesick Alien actually managed to go down the inside on that. Decides to back out of it a little bit, and this could be crucial. King of Torque has got a car in between him and his teammate. So Homesick, on tyres that he's more familiar with at least. Groot also came into the pits. Groot rejoined the track in 5th in very clear air. But yet Homesick Alien currently on the podium on his debut. Of course, those tyres looking more worn than quite a lot of the cars around him, but he'll have a feel for the rubber he's on, unlike the ones around him. Carbon perhaps starting to get to grips, pun intended, with his new rubber, and he'll certainly be trying to look to get ahead of the Texaco machine as soon as he can. He's not quite in slipstream range. Indeed, this is allowing King of Torque to get away. We saw the tyre wear on King of Torque's BMW M6 was absolutely catastrophic compared to his teammates, especially on the fronts, so must be running a fair bit more heavy front brake bias or something, perhaps just braking a lot later. As he nearly loses it, that was King of Torque having a very shaky moment on his new rubber. Let's see if we can catch that again. But it's just coming through here. There you can see, nearly lost it, managed just to hold on to it. As it's looking like Carbon is going to try something on the Audi R8 of Homesick. No, not quite close enough, unless he's very committed on the brakes, but he's not on this occasion. Homesick runs wide, and that's allowing Carbon to get past. It looked like Carbon just had a better exit anyway, but Homesick running onto the grass certainly wouldn't have helped them put down the power of that V10 engine. And now that's allowing Carbon to catch back up to King. And the gap between Carbon and King around that 7/10 where the slipstream starts to become effective. Meanwhile, what's going on here? There seems to be a bit of another overtaking thing going on at this point. What's this? It's GRM Bandit just being lapped by race leader Ayrton Spencer at this stage in the race. So that's happened. And again, Carbon seeming to just be able to catch up through even the twisty sections, it would seem, at this stage. You can see using a wider line to get a bit of a better entry into that section. And again, he's all over the back of his teammate. It's just like how it was earlier. And he's looking a lot closer on this occasion as King seemed to make a little bit of a mistake going onto the gravel. They're side by side now are the two Dynamic Esports teammates. It's going to be Carbon on the outside, King of Talk on the inside. They break around the same moment. King just about manages to hold on to it. Carbon might be thinking if there's anything else he could have done on that section, but it looks like he's got the momentum going down towards turn 3. He's on the inside line.com, has to back out of it in an attempt to just not hit his teammate on that section, probably realizing that even if he did outbrake him through there, that King would have had the inside line for the following two apexes. But we're seeing some fantastic racing between these two Dynamic Esports lads. And indeed, Homesick Alien on that worn rubber now starting to drop a little bit back. The gap 1.5 seconds. In other news, the gap between King of Talk and Ayrton Spencer now 1 minute and 2 seconds. Ayrton Spencer absolutely just putting on a masterclass at this stage in the race. We still have just less than half of the race to go. Of course, thanks to our current 9 viewers for tuning in here on Dynamic Racing League, still not part of the radio show limited network of channels. And we have around 16 laps, if my math is correct, maybe 17, of racing to go here at Autopolis International Racing Course here in Japan. Round 4 of the DRL DTM Championship Season 2. So Carbon's starting to drop back a little bit. Seem to lose a little bit of time on that lap, but it's closing up again. As there was another slide from King of Talk, and that's really got that gap down. So King of Talk not looking as comfortable on that fresh rubber as his teammate. They approach the turn 10 hairpin. Nothing Carbon can do on this occasion. There's a little bit of a tyre squeal from King of Talk's car, and he's already on that side of the track, so it must have been a poor exit. They're side by side again. Is Carbon going to try something into turn 11? No, he doesn't. Again, perhaps just feeling a bit nervous about hitting his teammate, which is completely understandable. The last thing you want to do in racing, of course, it is the golden rule: don't hit your teammate. So we're going on board with the car of Carbon yet again. This battle proving to be a very interesting one to follow. Currently no other battles happening on track according to the track map at least. So is it going to be close enough to challenge on this occasion? It doesn't look like it. Or maybe if he sticks in it. No, he's pulled out again. He's going to have to be very committed if he is going to try that, but isn't. King's running a bit wide as Homesick Alien has gone into the pits. So Homesick Alien Where will they rejoin, actually? We'll just quickly see if we can go on board with Groot. So, Homesick Alien, a fair bit ahead of Groot in the end. As John Wandering also comes into the pits from 8th. Air horns all round in the pit lane. There you see GRM Bandit also going into the pits, matching his teammate's strategy. And Carbon seems to just be getting better exits as King of Torque clips the grass a little bit. Still managing to keep his teammate behind him at this particular point. Checking in with our race leader. Just lapped TSR Jimmy, it seems. It's Ayrton Spanner, the Welshman, doing a extremely good job for the next gen team and car. In fact, he's so far ahead that the graphic doesn't even show how far ahead he is anymore. Oh, there we go. 1 minute and 11 seconds is the gap. And Carbon, it seemed like he was a little bit more committed on that occasion. He's gonna definitely have a bit more of a chance through here. The kink certainly helps his chances. He's more than alongside. He has gotten ahead slightly, but he'll have the outside through the complex of 4 and 5 and isn't able to hold on to it to try and take the place on the hairpin at 6. And hear the crowd in the background. Everyone's having a fantastic day of racing here at Autopolis International Racing Course. The fans definitely getting their money's worth with the action providing here today. It was fantastic weather as usual, helping the tyres. Still no chance of rain in the area according to our weather radars. Again, Carbon just looks so much faster through so many sections, but it's just he can't get past King at this point. King's doing too good of a job on the defense whenever he does have a chance, and Carbon just not quite close enough where he needs to be in order to get a run, in order to get it ahead enough to make a confident challenge, it has to be said. He has backed out of a few challenges on occasions in this, just playing it cautious, hoping their teammate makes a mistake. Well, obviously not hoping their teammate makes a mistake because they're his teammate, but hoping for a little bit of a slip up that will allow him to make his move. Gap coming down again. It's going to be another challenge down the inside for the complex at 3, 4 and 5, but no. Again, evidence of him just backing out, biding his time. Perhaps will be a bit more desperate later on in the race, which is completely justified, of course. As indeed, that mistake has come from King. He just seemed to lose it on the exit of turn 6. He's trying to put the power down early. Certainly hasn't worked for him. And now Carbon's going down the inside of the hairpin, is he? No. Again, but King's gone wide, and that's really allowing Carbon to have a good run. But has to get out of the throttle because his teammate is on the outside. So what will it take for Carbon to get past King of Torque? Will it be just a case of tyre wear? Someone's gone off. Someone's gone off. Who's that? It's our race leader. No, surely not. What's happened here to Ayrton Spanner? What on earth? So he's following, and they just clips the grass and he's into the wall, and there's engine damage. So this race has been completely turned on his head, has it? He's limping back to the pits. Where's the battle for second? They're coming across the line now. And our race leader still has the last sector to go, so perhaps he'll just about manage to get out ahead still, but especially because you're not full power through this section, really. But it's going to be a crippling blow to his confidence, if nothing else, for Ayrton Spencer. When everything was looking so good, there's no pressure on him at all, being over a minute ahead of the guy in second and dominating this one. But now he has to come into the pits to repair that damage. The battle for seconds still rages on. King's starting to pull a bit of a gap again. It's fluctuating quite a lot, is this battle. So indeed, the car of Ayrton Spencer does get out, still with a very strong margin ahead of the guys in second and third. So let's just have a quick rundown of the rest of the order. So we know it's Ayrton Spencer first, King of Torque still second, and Dynamic Carbon third. Again, they're getting a bit close. But it's Homesick who's in fourth. It's Groot in fifth. In fact, hold on. There's Groot in fifth. Jimmy sixth. And then it's going to be Bandit in seventh, and then it's John Wandering in eighth on this occasion. But now look at this. Finally, there's contact between the two teammates. So the one time that I try and do something other than watch this battle, something happens. So what happened here was just turn one. Carbon finally makes a pass that looks worthy of sticking, and it didn't look like he ran King off. It just looked like King turned in a bit too early, and the contact just sort of forced him wide. It seemed to be a similar situation that happened between him and Bandit in the Super Formula yesterday, but it would seem that Carbon has let King back through. That is what I'm going to assume it was, but King has gone off again, this time at the hairpin of his own accord. He hasn't got damage or anything, so that was just a mistake on his part. That's putting his teammate Dynamic Carbon and a championship leader back up into second place. Again, probably should check the tyre wear between these two cars. It's about even on this occasion, this stage in the race. We've had 30 laps here at Autopolis. We've just got around 11 or so to go. Just got past the 53-minute marker. So again, the next gen car, despite that slip up that we saw, which I was really surprised when I saw that, because there wasn't really any pressure on him, but Ayrton Spencer still in first place with a very healthy margin. Still, it's less than a minute now, but that's the least of his concerns at this point in the race. 48 seconds. Jimmy is in the pits. So has he picked up damage? No, this is just a pit stop for tyres and perhaps a bit of fuel. No fuel for Jim Jam on this occasion. He exits the pits. There you see our race leader Ayrton Spencer in the background. Again, that Audi R8 looks so battered and bruised on the front of it. I don't know what it is about TSR Jimmy and picking up front aero damage, but it seems to be a bit of a running theme. Let's hope that theme doesn't continue for him in dynamic racing leagues. I am Groot in the Fujitsu car. still doing a very good job for VRC. They're currently running 5th, a minute and 9 seconds back from race leader Ayrton Spanner, and has for the most part been a relatively consistent drive. I was slowing my sentence down there as I saw them drifting a bit closer to the grass on the exit of that section, but seems to survive quite well. A teammate in the Texaco machine, Homesick Alien, doing a very good job. Alpha Nut would certainly be proud of this drive. So both VLC cars well into the points. Of course, fan favourite John Wandering still going around, despite being 2 laps down. Still, it has to be admired, is his persistence. And of course, GRM Bandit, his teammate in Moonshine Motorsports, coming around the last corner to end off his lap 31. He's a minute and 58 seconds down from Spanner, but Spanner has been mincing this field here today of the regulars. A little bit slidey on the exit of turn 1, but manages to keep it off the grass, out the walls. Now, despite that mistake from King of Torque earlier, and Carbon now being ahead, it would seem that King is taking out a little bit of that gap on his teammate. Not much, but a bit. It's now around the 1 second margin. We know how fast King of Torque is. It's a very interesting case, actually. It seems to be the car that's following, even through the corners, seems to be the one catching up between these two. It's a bit of an odd dynamic. Normally you'd think the dirty air would have a bit more of an effect, but perhaps that is more of a Super Formula thing, as King does run a fair bit wide on the exit of turn 8. I want to say that is, yep, turn 8, because this is the turn 10 hairpin. Blue flags being waved for someone up ahead. I believe that's the Aston Martin CVS Pharmacy car of John Wandering, Moonshine Motorsports, of course. Well, things are certainly not over yet, as you can really see King putting on the pressure on his teammate. So the roles have been reversed. And perhaps the traffic of John Wandering could play a bit of a strategic factor in this one. So we're going to go on board with the rear wing shot on Carbon's car to just see how this develops. How close can King of Torque get? And will he be more committed than Carbon was on that occasion he did before? He's going to look to the outside line through turn 1, and indeed he's still there, and that's John Wandering that went off. I'm going to assume that was similar to what happened before, that he just made way for the guys battling because he is a lap down, but they can really just see King of Torque so much more committed and aggressive in his overtaking strategy compared to what we saw from Carbon earlier. It was a bit more hesitant and pensive. But Carbon still manages to hold on to second for now. We go defensive into the hairpin. We talk a slight bit later on the brakes. You can see that nose of the BMW behind just really closing up through the apex, seeming to carry a bit more speed through the corner itself. So we've just passed the hour mark in the race, which would be our normal race length time, but of course we switched to the lap format, so that means that we have a little bit extra to go. We're currently on lap 34 of 41, about to go on to 35. Of course our race leader has been on lap 35 for quite some time. Again, will King of Torque be able to challenge going down into turn 1? Being very fair between these teammates, as Carbon, interestingly, runs a bit wide, and King's got a long side, I think. No, not quite enough. So Carbon just manages to cut off the inside line before King managed to get his nose in. Again, King all over the back of Carbon. Super glued to his rear bumper. Just very, very anxious to try and get past. This is fantastic battling between these two teammates we're seeing. So making their way to turn 10, King's dropped back a little bit. Perhaps just hoping to get a bit more of an overspeed as he makes a run down onto this straight, but he's out of the 7/10 slipstream range as the neighbours are screaming, so that means a certain football team that they support has probably scored. I won't say which because that might be considered spoilers or something else. Get King catching up through this section. It's almost like the dirty air effect is happening to the car leading these two. It's weird. You gotta think that King of Torque must be wearing his tyres a fair bit, just trying to keep up at this kind of pace. He gets on the grass on the exit of the stadium section. What's King gonna do on this occasion? Not quite close enough. The gap now back up to 1 minute and 1 second for our race leader Ayrton Spencer in the next gen BMW M6. Despite that one mistake of clipping the grass, it has gone extremely well for him. And is still shattering down the lap times with a 1:41.957 being the fastest of the race so far. Of course, as he burns off the fuel load on that fresher rubber, he'd certainly be able to pick up a bit of pace. He's purple in sector 1, as it looks like there's a bit of a scrap going on somewhere. We've just had another retirement, actually. Who was that? That was Jimmy, wasn't it? Was Jimmy retired from the race? He must have, because he's not appearing on the screens anymore. So, unless he was one that retired earlier. But we're now down to 7 runners. I just checked. As Ben has just gone into the pits, and he rejoins, still in 6th, still with quite a lot of a gap ahead and behind him. Oh, just warming the tyres up a bit. Getting blue flags, because I believe that's our race leader coming through. So it's not, it must be someone else. Now hold on a second. Who on earth is... Oh, so that is still our lead battle that was going through. I was wondering what was happening. Lead battle. Battle for second, rather. My apologies for getting that wrong. Look how aggressive King of Torque is being. Trying on the outside of the hairpin. He's starting to get a bit desperate, isn't he? Carbon just leaving a little bit of space on the inside, going through turn 8. He doesn't go defensive, but King of Torque thought about it, just showing himself in the mirror is a slight tap. Not quite full-on onion barges yet between the two teammates. Homesick Alien in the Texaco Audi R8 currently 11 seconds back from these guys. But it is still all-out attack here for second place between the two dynamic esports cars. Red versus blue. As indeed TSR Jimmy has left the lobby. And Mika has officially called me a peasant in the chat. Shut your face. You're degenerate, filthy, all those comments. Can some people stop bullying Mika in the chat just for the sake of it? I'm not taking this anymore. Anyway, King of Talk again closing up in the slipstream, having a back out going through turn 1. Certainly been the feature battle of this race has been this one. Mika claiming that he's going to end my whole career. What career? Is all I have to say to that. As a bit of a slip from King of Talk. King of Talk's BMW is starting to look a lot more unsettled than it was before. Must have something to do with the tyres just wearing out. Again, Carbon just doing a extremely good job of just holding his nub. I don't know if Dynamic Esports has an actual team radio voice chat that they have mid-race, but if they do, then obviously they'd be quite respectful in like communicating what they're going to try and attempt to make sure there's no contact or minimal contact at least, as King could have very nearly lost it on the exit of turn 12. Well, that was the exit of turn 11, sorry. Heading into 12. Fair point, it's not like I can use my own soul, Mika, because apparently I don't have one, according to you. The life of being semi-ginger. Well, yet again, deja vu. We've been in this place before. King of Talk now trying to challenge Carbon for what must be the 81st time on turn 1, despite it only being lap 39. I'm sure that makes perfect sense. Carbon not actually going overly defensive is something that I've noticed, not being overly aggressive regarding taking more defensive lines going into corners. As King of Talk looking to perhaps get a bit of a cut back through the hairpin, hasn't worked for him on that occasion. As I am now officially dying, as that was Bandit who just had a bit of a slip up, and no, surely he's not going to spin onto the track near the race leaders. He doesn't, he keeps it on the grass, luckily, but that might have psyched Carbon out a little bit. And now King of Talk's going down the inside, Carbon's still there, they have to leave each other the room. Carbon has their hazard lights on. Whether that means he's paused or not, I don't know. But he's still got them on. He might have just pressed the button by accident and not turn them off. Maybe he's using the Armored Core strategy. But King of Talk has managed to get his way back up into second place with only 2 laps remaining in this one. So we just about managed to catch those GRM Bandits spinnies, still in 6th place at this point, but this one's going down to the wire between these two teammates. It's going to be Carbon again, back where he was before, as the challenger, not the challenge. So he's got to be a lot more aggressive than he was before. Must be getting a bit more desperate at this point, surely. You've got to think he's going to be trying some more risky stuff. We definitely have seen that King of Talk was the more aggressive when it came to the battling side of things. only paid off for him on this occasion. As there's a bit of bunching up going down a bit further down the field. This is certainly still the battle to watch. But just quickly see what's going on here. Oh! It's a good thing we checked to see what went on there. That's Groot and one of the Aston Martins. It looked like it might have been John Wandering. Indeed it was. So there was contact between those two. Let's just see if we can get a replay on this real quick. Oh, we can't quite catch it, unfortunately. It's a bit too late on the call. But that might be a bit damaged for the cars of Groot. In fact, yeah, you can see how Groot is having to weave a little bit in order to keep the car going straight. So that has to be suspension damage for Groot, and probably suspension damage as well for John Wandering. And for Ayrton Spanner, it's just front aero, but he's coming around the final sector for the last time, and it is going to be almost surely the race win here today at Autopolis. He's just got one corner to go. He's on the start finish straight, and it is indeed going to be a win for the next gen car, and Ayrton Spanner, car number 11, wins here at Autopolis. What a fantastic result. And the two VRC cars there just coming across the line in vague formation. So it's going to be Groot in 4th, Homesick in 5th, it's GRM Bandit in 6th, and John Wandering in 7th. But there's still a fight going on between King of Torque and Dynamic Carbon. King of Torque seems to have got a bit of a gap now over his teammate. Oh, but he's sliding, and no, he's surely not going to lose it now. Surely not. That's allowing Carbon to close up rapidly as they make their way into the last sector for the last time. What's going to happen here? King nearly could have ran wide on that occasion. This is absolute insanity in the last sector. It just takes one mistake from King to lose it all. Carbon looking for that wider entry line. Not quite worked out for them on this occasion. It's just 2 corners away. But it is indeed looking like it is going to be King of Torque taking second here today from his teammate Dynamic Carbon, weaving to show off his success. Congratulations to them for that. And it's going to be GRM Bandit just coming across the line now, the last of our finishers here. But points again, but of course finished ahead of John Wandering, but John Wandering crossed the line earlier, being a couple laps down. There's your final finishing order. Of course, congratulations to our debut winner here at Autopolis. It is Ayrton Spanner, pole position, fastest lap, race win. What more could you ask for? No doubt Sailor is going to be ecstatic with that result for his team here today. So, the results. Here they are in the end of things. It is the Welshman of Ayrton Spanner taking the win by 1 minute and 22 seconds over King of Torque and Dynamic Carbon, making up the final step of the podium, around 6/10 behind their teammate in the end. It's a BMW 1-2-3. How often have we seen that in DRL DTM? It's the 4th and 5th for Audi, and specifically the VRC team. So Groot finally picking up some decent points, showing that pace that I figured that he had. GRM Bandit managed 6th in the end, so it takes the final point, and no doubt that'll be a good result. Taking points here again for Moonshine Motorsport. There you can see some of the DNFs. Nils and Houdini both disconnected, and of course we had the likes of TSR Jim Jam who left or disconnected or something as well that we saw. And then there was one more who has just escaped my mind, unfortunately, but and no doubt someone will bring that to my attention. So, what a race. We'll be seeing if we can get a couple interviews going. Oh. It's weird how I still type using the DualShock instead of the keyboard. So we'll be seeing if we can get the top 3 in for interviews. Not sure about Dynamic Carbon because I don't think he's revealed his voice to anyone in the history of anything. He is the mysterious Waddle Dee after all. Again, thanks so much to our current 10 viewers watching on the stream. We've had a fantastic turnout here today. We've had some fantastic racing, especially from the 2 Dynamic Esports cars, and some absolute domination at the hands of our race winner Ayrton Spencer. I hope you've enjoyed the show, and hopefully we'll have some interviews coming your way shortly. We just need to get some confirmation as to who we can have and such. Gugus did start. He just ended up disconnecting apparently. So, Ayrton Spencer, we'll see if we can get some in a party. I might have to send them a friend request first. Hold on a second. One Earth. My apologies for the technical difficulties we're experiencing at this particular stage. Only hoping to bring you the interview shortly. Okay, friend request is sent to Ayrton Spencer, and then hopefully he'll be able to join this Team Radio, this interview. So again, if you've enjoyed the stream and the action here today, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, of course, to Dynamic Racing Leagues as well as Nuke Shot Motorsport, where I myself happen to have my own personal channel instead of working for other people, or the peasants as I like to refer to them as they rightly are. Still waiting on Ayrton Spencer to join the party chat. Oh, he's just in. Ayrton Spencer, if you could just quickly check your party settings and make sure that you have your voice share settings to always allow if you haven't already, just as a quick check. Something that we always have to do real quick. Alright, good. So, Aaron Spenner, where do we start? That was an absolute domination here of DRL DTM here today at Autopolis. He's qualified on pole, but didn't really get the best of starts. What were you thinking as you dropped positions off the grid?
I can never get a good start in this game. Just try and not lose too many positions. And I didn't really. I lost only one to talk. And then it was just a question of getting past it.
Yeah, it certainly worked out for you. Regarding the rest of that, and it just seemed to be you driving away from the rest of the field, ending up with over a minute in hand to the second place car in the end of this all. But there was a bit of a slip up where you did take heavy engine damage. What were your thoughts as that incident happened?
It's a good job that I had a big lead at that point, because there's people not obeying the blue flag rule. You have to be, some people you have to be right up the backside to get their attention. And I tried going around his outside and he closed the door and I went on the grass and spun. So that wasn't ideal, but luckily I had a big gap. Came in, pit, repair and back out with a 38-second gap. I think it was in the end.
Yeah, it's very rare that we see this level of domination here, especially of series veterans such as King of Torque. All I can really say is congratulations and enjoy that champagne on the top step of the podium, dude. Congrats.
Thank you.
Alright, so that was our race winner, Aaron Spenner, who just joined us momentarily. We're going to be seeing if we can get our second place guy in for an interview here today. He's been waiting for this for a little bit. As King of Torque. If I can just quickly find him on the list, which for some reason I can't. I'll have to send this manually. Oh, hold on. Hold on a sec. Oh, it's spelled with a 1. That makes sense. I'm so professional. Hopefully this process will be smoothed over a little bit in the future. So, invite has been sent to King of Torque. Hopefully he'll be able to talk the talk now that he's walked the walk and managed to get second place. Yes, I did just make that joke. Okay, King of Talk is here. If you could just quickly check your party settings to make sure. Alright. So it's just become a bit of a feature of the interviews at this point. But King of Talk, fantastic drive today. At one point you were actually leading the race after Aaron Spenner managed to drop back. He eventually managed to get back past again, but then we saw a fantastic battle between you and your teammate. Would you like to talk us through it a little bit?
I got a good start, which I was amazed by because I never usually do, and went into the lead. And then Aaron Spenner is seriously quick and just completely outpaced me today. And then I had a battle with my teammate, which was very intense because I didn't want there to be any contact or anything like that. But there was a few little onion barges, as you say. I believe he actually got damaged near the end, but I didn't, and that allowed me to get P2.
Right, so yeah, it was a fantastic battle that we saw between you and Carbon throughout. One thing that I noticed in particular was him trying to get a bit of an undercut on you. It didn't quite work out in the end, but it seemed really odd that even through the corners it seemed to be the trailing car was catching up. I would have thought that the dirty air would have had a bit more of an effect. How was the car feeling today?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what went on there, but the car, when you're in front, like you said, it definitely seems like you're the one who's suffering with dirty air. Because as soon as there's a car right behind you, you start sliding all over the place, is what I found. But don't know what's going on there, maybe a bug with the game or something.
Yeah, perhaps the dirty air has been set to reverse settings or something. We don't know what polyphony does these days. Congratulations, of course, on your second place, and of course, fantastic result for Dynamic Esports today. Thanks for the interview.
2-3.
Indeed. So yeah, enjoy the champagne.
Thank you very much.
Okay. That was our interview with King of Talk, our second place guy. I've heard from our third place guy, Carbon, that he's not up for an interview after that, so we'll see. Maybe Bandit, maybe Bandit. We'll have to see. I just need to double check that I have that. We'll make it a tradition of having 3. Okay, so we'll just quickly see if we can get Bandit on the line. I know he'll have his voice share settings set up appropriately, because on my channel, in case you didn't know, I do random race commentaries, which is a fantastically fun series where I just mess around in the commentary booth, a bit like now, but this is slightly more professional, just slightly. Okay, we now have GRM Bandit here with us in the party chat. Bandit, points today, admittedly for 6th, and there were quite a lot of dropouts, but points nonetheless. How would you say the race actually went for you in particular?
Well, it was much like Super Formula in the beginning. There was an incident, and unlucky me, I actually got caught up in it this time, so I guess my luck ran out. And then after that, I don't know, 3 laps later, after I got fresh tires, repaired the damage, and ended up hitting the wall again. And then at some point, I guess somebody made a few mistakes and got behind me, and we had a battle for about 2 laps, and then my tires had fallen off at that point. So yeah, that's basically my race, and all the dropouts put me in the points.
Yeah, so of course points are points at the end of the day, but of course if it wasn't for those dropouts, it would certainly be questionable whether you would have managed to get them. Looking forward, I suppose you could say, to Brands Hatch, which is the next round that we're having on the 11th of May. Is it a track that you're a bit stronger at, and perhaps the Aston Martin is a bit stronger at, would you say, if you've done any practice as of recent?
That's a good question. Brands Hatch was in Forza, so I mean, I certainly have some experience on it, but I can't say if I'll be good at Brands Hatch. I mean, I haven't driven it much in Gran Turismo, so we'll call it that. Yeah, Aston Martin, however, very understeered today, very oversteered today. The car didn't know what it wanted to do. Much like teenage girl deciding what kind of jeans she wants to wear. Just standing there for 15 minutes, not deciding anything, so yeah.
That's an interesting analogy.
Hey, it's true though, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose there is that, of course. I just love how down to earth you are with all this stuff, but yeah, of course, points at the end of the day that you can bring home to Moonshine. Wish you all the best of luck going forward to hopefully bring some more home for the Brands Hatch race.
Can I add one more thing, Apple?
Sure, what? What do you want to say?
Carbon, quit changing the rules.
You heard it here first, folks. Carbon, quit changing the rules. And also Mika in the chat calling me a B-Tech level 1 Murray Walker. Shut up.
Classic Mika.
I know,
Hello,
I know.
Mika.
Ah, dear. Big up Jack Wilkinson on the cam. Well, we hope that you've enjoyed the racing here today that we've had at Autopolis International Racing Course for round 4 of Dynamic Racing League's DTM. I've been your commentator, Nukeshot Off Apple. We hope to see you next time out on the 11th for Brands Hatch on the GP circuit. Also on the 10th we go to Blue Moon Bay in the Super Formula. That'll be another interesting race. We've seen in the DTM especially that Blue Moon Bay does offer up quite a good amount of racing. So we'll have to see how that develops. So yeah, I have been Nukeshot Off Apple. This has been Dynamic Racing League's DTM, not part of the Radio Show Limited network of channels. And I will hope to see you next time. Later, folks.